regular decoding the metaphor classes because I thought it will be better to get a general eye view of what all we are really trying to study. उसके बाद come down to the main portion which we will be considering or we are considering. Now, if you see, from the time we are born, we know that one day we are going to die. All around us, हमारे साथ death ही होती रहती है. एक जगह birth हो रहा है, दूसरी जगह death हो रहा है. The portion from birth to death is covered by science. That portion from death to birth again, or rather before birth and after death, this is the portion covered by philosophy. And this is generally, it was assumed that it is purely speculation. But yeah, even as speculation, that urge is there to find out what happens. हम लोग पैदा तो हो गए, we have been born, but at death, does everything disappear? We disappear, we cease to exist. What happens? होता क्या है? Now, all the great religions and all the great philosophers are of the opinion that no, you don't disappear. The soul that is there, which is within a man, that does survive. And it is this kind of the thinking that has been going out that is today we have got, I've broadly categorized them into various, lot of thinkers, lot of sages. They've given their mind to it, they've investigated it, as even scientists. And they have all tried to understand what is this phenomena, whether this happens or not that happens, and if it happens, how it happens, what all is to be done, etc. In the Indian psyche, karma is a very important phenomena. And karma jo hai, uska main result or is that rebirth. What is rebirth? Is it really there or not there? Forget about saints, etc., which have been investigating it thousands of years, since the last several thousand years. Lately, the last century, also it has been investigated by what we call modern day scientists. Among them was Dr. Stevenson, and he collected, or rather in his register, he recorded some 3,000 cases all over the world, out of which he has gone personally all around the world, investigating in great detail more than 2,000 cases he has recorded in his diary. And which is what is this rebirth? A child is born, and after the moment he starts speaking, he is able to, some of them, of course, some of them able to tell that in my previous birth I was there, I was here, this is who I am, and so was my wife, or so and so was my husband. These so many children, we had a house, etc., etc. They keep on telling. So in several instances, this Dr. Stevenson, he has gone around and collected the data, and he has confirmed that in almost every case, it has turned out to be true, which does give a feeling that perhaps this phenomena is, although all children are not able to recount their past lives, but this number is so large that it cannot be said that it is untrue. In fact, had it been even a single case, then too there'd be a strong case for accepting that there is something like rebirth. A child at a man or a person after death, it does not disappear, it does not cease to exist, but is reborn. Now, this is the central theme of all the Indian philosophies, जितने भी हैं, including Vedic philosophy. Vedic philosophy में बहुत सारे हैं, there are a number of them. We shall consider 3 of them. In addition, you've got the Jains, you've got the Buddhists. ये सबका भी, and this about, in fact, the modern days में, you can say, if you like, Sikhism, in case you will want to call it a separate religion. So all India-based religions जो हैं, उस सब में ये माना जाता है कि there is something like rebirth, and this is on account of karma. So we will try to see what are the various philosophies, what are the in various cultures, किस तरह से इसको, the portion between death, after that and before birth, ये कैसे, how it's been treated. Now, we'll start with the first one, is the charvak philosophy. That is a philosophy, means It primarily consider. You see, we are born, we exist. Nobody can say I don't exist. He can see himself, he can feel himself, and he's there. He can see everything around himself. So he certainly exists. Whether other things exist or not is a different matter. Perhaps everything else also जो दिख रहा है वो exist करता है, which we can feel, we get through our senses, we can feel, we can see, we can touch, we can hear, we can smell, we can taste. All our five senses, through the five senses, we can make out the existence of something beyond ourselves. That is the Charvak philosophy. Now, the Charvak philosophy says that anything which has to be which is a matter of speculation, that we will not accept. So everything beyond what we can, beyond our five senses, is speculation. So we don't accept that. So in the Charvak scheme of thinking, uh, there is a man, and a man is the product of the universe. The universe exists, hence man also exists. And from where did the universe come into existence? The universe, they say it just appear. It is always been there, and nobody has created it. It is there on its own accord. The detractors for this theory, these people keep on saying, no, no, the existence of something merely shows that this is an effect. There must be a cause. Where is the cause? If there is no cause, that means the effect should not be there or cannot be there. So Charvak philosophy has been questioned on this point. This has been countered, or rather, not countered, I would say. So इसमें progress हुई है by what they call the theist philosophies, the philosophy of the Jains and the Muslims, in which the Jains and not Jains, the Muslims and the Christians. This is the theist philosophy. इसमें they say there is a self-created God who has created the entire universe and everything within it. And this self-created God is the one who directs, who runs the entire universe. And after death and at the end of time, he will either dissolve the universe or whatever. Meanwhile, he is also responsible. He says, according to this theist philosophy, Islamic and Christian, that God having created this, he has created the man, he has created the animals, he has created trees, birds, fishes, he has created the stars and the moons and everything. He has created everything that is there. He is the creator God. And this creator God has laid down certain norms, commandments, and how to live your life. And man has to live his life according to the commandment. If you don't live your life according to his commandment, then he is going to punish you. And after at death, what happens is that although your body dies, but something is there within you that does not die, and that something is the real you. That these people, where this philosophy is common, they call it a soul. The soul survives death, and after the death of the body of course starts decaying, and very quickly it turns back into the elements. So everything on this earth is created out of the elements from the earth itself. In the Charvak philosophy also, how the universe created? Universe is created again out of the ever-existing elements. Just four of them. And the four elements are earth, water, fire, and air. With these four elements, the entire universe has been created, as per the Charvak philosophy. And there are, other than these four elements which are ever existing or they ever exist, there are some few basic laws, 3, 4 basic laws. Now, if it sounds rather far-fetched to us, I may share with you that Stephen Hawking, the great scientist who died about a few years ago, he, in his book, The Grand Design, has shown that mathematically it is possible for these four simple elements, basic elements, operating under a few laws, to turn into very complex molecules, complex structures, and complex. And certainly in a million years or so, they can become as complex as a human being. It's theoretically possible. Hai. So this charvak philosophy also, we cannot just dismiss it. But like I said, इसमें big the detractors used to say if there is no creator तो आ गया from where, but there is इसका कोई cause नहीं है. So that cause has been introduced by introducing the concept of God. God is the cause of the entire universe, and God is the one who has created the universe. Now, what about the man? Man also has been created by God, and man के अंदर एक the God has placed a soul, which is the real man. The body of the man will perish, and it will be buried, or it may be consigned to the flames. But the real man, which is there within the body, that survives. That does not perish at death. This surviving man or the soul is then, sorry, just 1 minute, please. This surviving man is then judged according to the commandments which has been laid down by God. And if he has lived as per the commandments, he is rewarded and sent to heaven. If he has not lived as per the commandments, then he is punished and sent to hell. Now, this is how the question of the concept of heaven and hell has come in. Now, इसमें again, the detractors of even this thing, they say, कि भाई, if God has created himself, why can't the universe also create itself? Why should it need a God? Number two, if God has created himself, who is the creator of the God? God cannot create himself, because if God can create himself, everything else also can create himself. So who created the God? If the answer is super God, then who created the super God, hyper God? If then who created the hyper God? Like that, you can keep on asking infinitely. So the slight variation in India, there's a slight variation in this Islamic and Christian philosophies के साथ साथ, which is of course is given the Vedos में है, that there is what they call the Nyaya philosophy. Nyaya philosophy, they said God is there, but he is not a creator God. See, in the Islamic philosophy, there is a creator, and Christian philosophy, there is a creator God. God said, let there be light. And immediately, the whole universe came into existence. Light hui, and light ke saath saath the whole universe came into existence. But as per Nyaya philosophy in India, the universe has always been existing, and God has also been always existing. So God does not have to create the universe. Acha, in the Islamic or the Christian philosophy, or God can be accused because God is responsible for everything. So when a child is born, in some cases the child is born in a very affluent family. In other cases, the child is born on the streets, in extreme poverty. Some children are born with great physical deformities. Others are quite healthy. Some children have got, affluence surrounding them. Others live in extreme poverty and pain and disease, etc. So why does this happen? This parity, a child does not do anything. जब तुम create करो, when you are creating everything, why is it that you have, this is a question to God. Why is it that God has made this kind of disparity? इसका कोई satisfactory answer नहीं है. So that is why, as in the Nyaya philosophy of or Nyaya Vedic philosophy of the Hindus, उसमें the God is only a kind of a Vishkarma. He takes the existing, existing particles, or rather existing substances or elements which are there, and out of those elements, he then designs or fashions or creates various things. Man hai, rocks hai, water hai, air hai, fire hai, ये सब बना के इनसे जितने भी trees हैं, animals हैं, birds हैं, man है, water hai, mountains हैं, all these things, earth hai, moon hai, they are all created out of this thing. But this only is a kind of a Vishkarma. He takes the existing element and he creates out of these existing elements. This way, creation is in the sense he is only a designer. He's like a fashion designer or a architect because he has not really created those materials. The material was already existing there. This way, they have solved this one problem of disparity, or rather not yet. Now, another thing is that there is disparity in the uh, at the time of creation in the earlier Islamic and Christian philosophy. God wills that somebody may be born on the street, the other person may be born in a king's palace. So disparity hai, because of which God can be accused of nepotism. This thing has been solved in the Nyaya philosophy by saying that, or rather by assuming that everything is based on karma. We do good deeds, so in the next birth we'll get a more affluent family, affluent condition we'll be born in. If you do some bad deeds, you're going to be born in rather unpleasant circumstances. If you have hurt somebody, you've broken somebody's bones, legs, or a hand or something, then actually your hands and legs or something, whatever it is, will get broken in the next life. That's why so many times we see children who are born with great deformities. The deformities are, it is explained as per this philosophy, that this is the result of your past karma. So karma has become quite a central theme in all Indian philosophy. Now, even in this, even in the न्याय philosophy, इसमें how कर्मा तो हो गया, मगर उसमें still it is not yet completely cut off from the Islamic philosophy, in Islamic type philosophy. Not that they are really joined; they are all developed at different places. But it's just I'm trying to show this progress there, and इसमें the karma is not as binding as we'll see later on, and God is responsible for giving judgment or punishing the person. So, like in the Islamic and Christian philosophy, in this Nyaya philosophy, you have a concept of God being the person, or rather the entity who metes out punishment for misdeeds and rewards for all the just deeds. And this just is, and then in the next birth, when they are born, how will they be born? They'll be born according to a karma. The punishment which was meted out to them, or reward which was meted down to them, was also on the basis of karma. Now, birth also in the next birth will be as per karma. With this kind of thinking, or rather with this philosophy, you'll see the need for a creator God disappear. Because first of all, the elements out of which the universe is constructed is ever existing. Then as far as far as birth is concerned, birth will be based upon karma, and punishment, or if somebody punishment may be in the form of illnesses or whatever, that's again based on karma. So God का really need ही खत्म हो गई है, and this thing, the need for the complete alienation of God is first seen in the Indian subcontinent, or the Indian way of philosophy, in the Jain religion. One sage by name as Rishabh Deva, he is the person who is credited to be the first of the Jain Tirthankar. Mahavir was only the 23rd. Anyway, according to the Jain philosophy, there are two parallel streams. One is the human being who is quite conscious of himself, and there is the universe. Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that man, in case of charvak philosophy, man in case of the Islamic and Christian philosophies, in both the cases, how does a man become conscious? तो उसके लिए कहा जाता है कि no, somehow in the charvak philosophy, somehow along with just as other things are get into existence, so also somehow out of these four elements, even the consciousness is created. In the Nyaya philosophy or the Islamic philosophy, God makes a man who is conscious. So the credit for making man conscious is with God. In the Nyaya philosophy also, God is responsible for God is responsible for making the man conscious. So to that extent, it is Nyaya is a little similar to the Islamic and Christian philosophy, but it's not entirely similar because you've got the concept of rebirth and karma. In the Jain philosophy, what has happened is they have said nothing doing. There is no God at all. There's no need for a God. There are only jivas, individual souls, and there are trillions of them, not one or two, trillions and trillions of them ever since the birth, ever since the universe came to existence. These souls have been there. And there is a universe which is also ever existing. Both these entities, one is the universe, the other is the individual souls or jiva. They are both existing independently. So on the earth, when the jivas are born, then of course, then their whole purpose of the this thing is to become perfect, no blemish in each any of the jivas. The karma which once it comes to the earth, it is subjected to laws of karma, and it acquires karma. But that karma is the one which binds it to this world. So the entire effort of the Jains is to get rid of break this binding. Once you break the binding, then you go to the higher plane. You are today in the plane of the in human being, not only human beings, but all the creatures which are there. That's the one plane. But higher than that is another plane, and there's another higher plane. So as the jiva or as the consciousness within the man. No, I won't say consciousness. It's better to stick to the word jiva only. The being which is there, the jiva which is there, as it improves, as it removes past and all the past karmas which bind it and hold it back to the on the earth, as and when they are removed, man keeps on rising up and up into different levels or different planes. Now, the whole idea of the Jains is that the karma or the which is lashed upon the jiva, they would like to clean it. When they clean it, when they remove it, then they will immediately rise up to the highest level. Where, unlike as we'll come see, they will continue to live there in the highest level, seventh level, as a perfect jiva, not interacting with the world at all, but living a perfect life in all bliss and happiness without shortage of anything. This is the uh, Jain philosophy. Similar to this, the Vedas had what they call the Shankar philosophy. In this Shankar philosophy, you have got also two things. One is the Purush, the other is Prakriti. Purush is consciousness, super consciousness or cosmic consciousness, and Prakriti is nature. When consciousness comes in contact with nature, then immediately the Prakriti or nature starts building up a form over a fragment of Purush. And this takes the shape of the universe, and this takes the shape of man within the universe and everything in between. So all the forms that you see is the result of the Purush or the consciousness interacting with uh, interacting with the universe. At death, what happens is in the case of Jain, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning, that in all the Hindu philosophies, there's a question, there's a what they call, there's a concept of rebirth on account of karma. So बार बार rebirth होता जाता है in case of Jain, in case of Shankya also, and in case of Jaya also, in all the Hindu philosophies, there's rebirth. And rebirth may, depending upon how you have lived your past life, Your karma will be examined. And if your karma is good karma, then you'll get better surroundings. You'll be born in better surroundings in conditions. And if your karma has been bad, then you'll be penalized and you'll be born uh, into a family institution which you have to suffer physically. Shankar philosophy is very similar to the Jain philosophy. इसमें you've got Purush and you've got Prakriti. And when these two get together, they come together, then the conscious, then Prakriti or nature generates a form over a fraction of the Purush. This form can be of any type. It can be human form, it can be animal form, bird form, fishes form. It can be trees, it can be plants, it can be creepers, any of the plants in the kingdoms, cactus, cactus, whatever you, even giant trees, Sicuna, Vicuna, sub, they all fall under this category. You can also have what modern science has still not accepted, that rocks, mineral rocks, rivers, water, clouds, ये सब भी एक फॉर्म है. And according to our thinking, that all these things are also generated when Purush and Prakriti interact with each other. So Prakriti, of course, generates it. Everything is there. But in each one of them, there's a tiny fragment of the Purush. A tiny fragment is divinity. At death, what happens is that the body or the form disintegrates, but the tiny fragment of Purush which is there, which is your consciousness, which is because of which you are aware of what is happening. You are aware of yourself, your name, etc. If somebody calls you by your name, you respond immediately. That is an awareness at the gross level. But nevertheless, you are aware, and awareness जो है, sorry, you are born at where was I? In the Shankar philosophy. In the Shankar philosophy, when these two interact, then they are born there. Shankar philosophy may they have another thing which they incorporate is that when Prakriti or nature interacts with itself, then it creates an ego. That ego, from the time it is generated, and it is generated very quickly, it surmounts the Purush and does not allow Purush to function. From that time onward, it is always the ego which starts functioning, and it, since it resides in the mind, the Purush is the one which dictates how the body behaves. So in this philosophy, you've got the Purush, which is conscious, super consciousness. Then you've got Prakriti, which is nature. Then, and these two, when they interact, then they create a form. Then they create a form over a tiny fragment of the Purush. The tiny fragment is the Atman, and Atman is the third category. The fourth category is the ego. This ego mounts itself upon the Atman, and every time it does not allow the Atman to really function. And whatever decision or direction has to be given to the body, mind, it is given by this ego. This ego is a creation of the Prakriti itself. Now, in each of these, I did not tell you, I should have told you, who am I का आता है. If you are in the charvak philosophy, you are a part of the universe. That's all. और कुछ नहीं है. So when the universe, and at death, the game is over, and you merge once back into the universe. So उसमें, in the charvak philosophy, you are merely part of the universe, a product of the universe. In the Islamic philosophy, who are you? You are a creation of the great creator God. It may be Allah, it may be God, who is father of Jesus, or if there are other thieves like the Jews. I don't know who their God is, but whoever their God is, man is also created. The Jews may be whoever their God is. He becomes he is equivalent to the God of Christianity and the Allah of Islam. And इसमें who am I जो होता है, so he is that I is primarily a creation of the creator. So this creation जो है उसके obligation होते हैं towards the creator and is bound by that direction or the diktats or the commandments of the creator. When it comes to Shankya, there is no God, there is no creator God. So then what is, who am I in Shankya? Shankya mein is a fragment of that Purush, cosmic consciousness. That cosmic consciousness is divine, is a fragment of divinity. Now, in दोनों में आप देखेंगे, when you come to the fragment of divinity, in case of Jain, who am I? In Jain, it is very clear, you are a Purush. And there are trillions of Purush ever existing at various levels. Very, very large number of Purush, or trillions in fact. They have all achieved perfection and they are living in the highest realm. The others who have not yet reached perfection, they are down. Now, when he is a Purush, that Purushka has only one aim, and that aim is to keep on improving himself till he becomes perfect being. In case of the Islamic and Christianity, the being who's there, or the man who's there, uska aim ye hai to satisfy the God and do as per his commandment. In case of Shankar philosophy, neither of this is there because he is sorry, excuse me. In the Shankar philosophy, the uh, the Atman, which is there, is actually divine. So man is really divine. And all man's action has to be, or is supposed to be, or it must be as per the divinity. It cannot be, or it should not be as per anything less than that. So this is the difference in who am I की वजह से क्या क्या फर्क आ जाता है. After this thing, there's yet another philosophy, which is called the Vedanta philosophy. Vedanta philosophy में the Purush and Prakriti are supposed to be one. उसमें there is nothing other than this Brahman. And everything, what you see, the universe and including man, they're all an illusion. We are, as per the Vedanta, the truth is, or the ultimate thing, is there is Brahman and Brahman alone without a second. There's nothing else other than Brahman. And man and the universe, they're all an illusion. So the entire effort of man, but man is all of us. We don't see ourselves as illusion. We see ourselves as something very real. And you find the earth also, or the universe around us, the world which is around us, you also find it very real. So we don't consider it, we don't think it is an illusion. So this can be dispelled by jnana, by knowledge. So that's why in case of Advaita philosophy, Vedanta, you need to be enlightened. In case of Shankya, and in case of Shankya, enlightenment nahi hai. Usme to you have to, the whole object is not to be reborn because it is following the path of karma. I told you in the very beginning, in all the Vedic philosophy, you have karma. And in this karma, it results in rebirth. So how do you get rid of this karma? We'll come to karma a little after this, hopefully if there's time. But how do you get rid of this karma? Is by you can get rid of it by doing नॉन एक्शन, क्योंकि एक्शन तो आपको करना ही है, but anything which will not result in karma. What is karma? Karma, although I'll come again a little later, karma we may understand here is that action which does not cause any reaction. Otherwise, every action, however small it may be, and whether it is mental or whether it is physical or whether it is through the word of mouth, all these things, thought, word and deed, they, they cause an action. They are called action. So all these things cause a reaction also. But if you can manage to have these your thoughts, words, and deeds in such a manner that they don't cause any reaction, then that does not create any karma. So effort in the Shankar philosophy is only this, so that you do not generate any karma. That is called moksha in both Jain philosophy as well as this. This this happens in Jain philosophy as well as in uh, Shankya because of desire. Desire के वजह से, of course, I don't want to go into nuts and bolts. So I go to the Advaita. Advaita mein you have to try and be enlightened. Now, enlightenment के लिए भी there are certain steps have been provided. The guidance is given how to do that, how to live your life, etc., etc. Then finally, you've got what they call the Buddhist philosophy. In Buddhist philosophy, uski bhi history is quite interesting, you know. When Buddha was alive there, most of his followers were all the existing people from the land. And most of these were all high class Brahmin who were very well educated or in Shastra and who are great knowledge of the Indian philosophy and Vedanta. So they wanted to have a philosophy every time. And every time Lord Buddha, Lord Siddhartha, Gautam Buddha, he used to discourage them, tell them, forget about all this philosophy. You stick to three, four important things. One of them is the the noble truths, the four noble truths. Then there is the middle way, middle path. Then there's the eightfold path. इस तरह के he kept on giving them direction how to live your life rather than worry about what is speculation or rather than speculate about what happens after death or from where are we born. He said you just forget about them. That's not required. What is required is to know, or rather to know the truth and know and get rid of the suffering which is there. Pain hai, disease hai, उसके वजह से suffering है, disease है, pain है, suffering है. So this is his whole object was to get rid of this pain, this disease, this old age, etc. And for that he said, you don't worry about philosophy. You just worry about, not just worry, but you carry out your life as per what I'm prescribing for you. In the Eightfold Path, most of the, what do you say, most of the Buddhists, they follow this path. Then of course four noble truths are there. The middle path is there. ये सब इस तरह से और 3-4 और चीजें हैं, which are coming down to us from his time. But after he left, in about 2 years' time, 200 years' time, the Pandits who had started following the Buddhist thought, they all generated a philosophy which was very akin to the Jain philosophy. Later on, of course, like all Indian philosophies, even Buddha kept on saying, don't accept my word for whatever I'm telling. You question it and practice it. And you have to question it and you have to practice it and come to your own conclusion. You have to find your own truth. I'm telling you something which is true. But you have to get your own experience, because unless you get your own experience, it will not be truth for you. So, and the same thing was held by all the sages who were there, who were born in India. And They say, "Ki, I can give you my experience, but you don't have to accept my experience. Unless you question it, unless it becomes your experience, it is no good. That you will not get any knowledge." So when this was there, the learned pundits used to, uh, debate among themselves and bring out small variations, but a major variation which was there, which came into existence about not at a bang ऐसा नहीं था, but gradually over a period of time, by about 500 years after Buddha left, the theory or the philosophy of Shunya came into being. And Shunya and Anatta, that means there is no soul and there is no universe or no God. Because during his lifetime, whenever somebody asked Buddha, he said, no, it's just nothing is there, it's just Shunya, forget about it. But he did not intend to create a philosophy there. But a philosophy was nevertheless created in spite of Buddha after he left. So, as per the Buddhist philosophy which exists today, there is no soul. That soul ke liye kaha jata hai anatta, non-soul, and uh, and shunya. Shunya is something that today there's a universe is there, but when the universe disappears, like a flame you can see, if you look at a flame in a candle or something, you'll find it has a certain shape, it has a certain form, and it is occupying a certain space. When you blow out that candle, then the flame is not there. Then the space occupied by the flame, that is called shunya, that void which is called shunya. And what the philosophy is, that within this void, everything gets generated out of itself. Nobody comes to, there's no God there, out of itself. All these things, they living among themselves, they are all governed by karma, and past karmas create the present, and present karma will create the future. And one is dependent upon the other, and each is dependent upon each other. So this was essentially the philosophy which is there. इसमें, because of this philosophy, who am I? I am also anatta. I am not a soul, and I will not survive. I will not be there. But I exist right now. I am very much there. And how do I get rid of this pain, etc.? By following these few paths, eightfold path, etc. Now, इसमें the idea is, if you see, for your self-development, like Jain जो है, as in the Jain philosophy, it was a self-development all the time, and everybody is worried about himself. That's why in the Islamic Buddhist philosophy, a very large number of monks are there. Monks आपको हर जगह मिलेंगे, but in this system or this tradition, the number of monks far greater number than in any other religion. So these are the various phases of philosophy, and these are uh, the who am I as per the philosophy. This who am I really decides how do we live our life. If you are a theist in Islam or something, then you have to live your life as as per God's commandment. Now, the problem is that somebody else interprets what the commandments are. Somebody else tells you what the commandments are, and you have to live as per that. Whether God really has told all that or not is another issue. But this can always quickly be hijacked, especially since in the Abrahamic religion or the Abrahamic thought, a question of debates, question of questioning God did not arise. God was the creator. You can't question him. Unlike in the Indian subcontinent, uh, all the philosophies which originated there, questioning and debate was greatly highly looked upon. And even in the Gita, Arjun keeps on questioning right up to the very end. It is only till when he has satisfied himself thoroughly from all points of view that he agreed to take up his bow and fight. So, whereas in our case, questioning is very important, and that is the basis of truth. That's the basis of arriving at the truth. But that's not so in the theist philosophies. Now, one question which has always plagued me, bugged me, is that all the saints are the one who have attained realization, who have seen so-called the truth. Why are they describing it differently? Nyayaka, I told you, is more like a God existing. In case of Shankya, there is no God, but there is a consciousness and there is a nature. In case of Vedanta, even that is not there. There just is Brahman, one alone. And there are numerous other variants. One variant is what they call the Kashmiri Shivaism, and usme you've got God who is Shiva, and you've got Prakriti, which is called the Shakti. Now it appears as if it is Shiva and Shakti, but the difference being that the Prakriti is supposed to be real, and although it is again, and although Shakti is really a part of Shiva, yet Shakti is real, unlike Vedanta, where the nature of Prakriti is not real. It is all illusion. The entire universe is an illusion. ये थोड़े थोड़े variations हैं उसमें in each of these philosophies, and because of these philosophies, the approach of everybody towards the life is little different. The Jain, for example, his whole approach is to live his life in an ideal manner. Others, in case of Islamic and Christian, to live their life as per direction of the God. In case of charvak, there is no other life. This is the only life. So eat, live, and be merry. That is it. In case of Vedanta, or rather, as in case of Shankya, since you are divine, everything, all acts from you must be consistent with divinity. In case of Vedanta, since you alone exist, nothing else. So everybody around you is also part of you. So that our view of everybody else is not different. Yeah, although I see different bodies, but they're all part of me. So our interaction, behavior to each other changes considerably. In case of the Buddhist philosophy, उसमें तो कुछ है ही नहीं. There nobody is there, nothing is there. So your whole idea is to become a zero, or become, completely disappear. And like the Jains, you're all concentrating upon yourself. It is quite an individual effort. Okay, I think